This morning's topic is procurement, how to procure products from a branch, from a DC, or from a vendor. Quick guides on this and a lot of other topics are in the T drive, which is found under this path here. Reach out to me after the call if you need help finding the T drive. In addition, each of these webinars, I record them, I hand them to Rachel. She snazzies them up a little bit, and then within a week or so, we post them to the Balson Group YouTube channel. If you don't know where that is, reach out to me, and I'll send you a link. Okay. So I'm going to hop into solar in just 2 or 3 minutes. But what we're going to do, we're going to step through 4 different examples of procuring. We're going to start off with procuring product from another branch, and then we'll do procuring from ADC, and then we'll wrap up with procuring from a vendor. So again, I'll hop into solar in just a moment, but you'll see it's the same general steps regardless of those scenarios. So in the body of a sales order, you already have your product entered. You're going to go to the schedule screen, then the procurement screen, choose the source, and enter your quantities. So here we go. So I've already got my sales order created with the 4 examples we're going to step through. So clicking anywhere on the row that has your product, click schedule, then procurement. Before I go into there, for this first example, I'm showing you, we already checked, ADC has 0, IDC has 0, and on this first one, schedule, procurement. I should say for my example, for most of my examples, I pretend like I work in Broomall. Broomall is closest to my house. I spend a lot of time there. Broomall is relatively close to a couple of other branches, including Colmar. So for this first example, I notice that Colmar has one available, and not only that, bonus, it's in surplus, meaning they have it and they're really not selling a lot of it. They would be happy to get rid of it. So I'm just going to enter my 1 in the procure quantity field next to Colmar. I'm going to leave the ship via as transfer truck, X out. Notice when I do that, it now says procured from Colmar in this schedule screen. And if I come back to the sales order body, Eclipse has added a comment, item has been procured. So behind the scenes, we have a phantom that runs about every 15 minutes that grabs up these transfers and drops them to the shipping branch to be shipped. So for that one, I'm basically done. For my second example, here again, ADC doesn't have it, and I'm going to get this from another branch. So I click on the product, schedule, procurement. So for this one, again, pretending I work in Broomall and I'm fairly close to Downingtown, we run transfers on a regular basis. I notice, wow, Downingtown actually has quite a few of these. So let me go off on a brief tangent. Throughout our company, for certain product lines, we have branches that are central warehouses, and you can see this in inventory inquiry. I jumped into inventory inquiry from the procurement screen, but I could have also gone right from the sales order body into here. The reason Downingtown has so many, notice that C down C, that C indicates that they're a central warehouse. And if I click on network available, it shows me that Downingtown is supplying these other Pennsylvania and Maryland branches, including me, pretending like I work in Broomall. So a moment ago, you noticed that they had 71, but because they supply my branch, it's actually already allocating or reserving product for me, so it's showing they have fewer available. Anyhow, if I want my product to come from Downingtown, in this case I'm looking for 25, I just enter my 25 next to them. Again, it says procured from here and puts the note on the product here. Okay. For the next example, I need 100 of these PVC half-inch slip 90s, 50 in a box. Here, Allentown Distribution Center is showing 264, and I'm going to choose to get it from there. Schedule. Procurement. Sometimes you might have to scroll down in the procurement screen, but then sure enough, there's Allentown Distribution Center, and I enter my 100. Okay, let me go back to my slides for a moment here. Okay. I should have hit this slide a minute ago, but just a couple notes when I'm procuring from another branch. Okay, but since we're already procuring from Allentown on this one, this is a reminder, aside from when around holidays and other times when Dawn sends out a special email, these are generally our cutoff times. So each day by 1:30, you want to have your procurements in from for ADC. If it's after 1:30 and it's urgent that you get the product, please reach out to your buyer or to Dawn, see if they can still add it that day or not. And then it's a 2 p.m. cutoff for the non-John Stone purchase orders. One other note on that inventory inquiry screen. This is also where you can see the box or package quantities. So when possible, we try not to break box quantities. So here I'm getting 100, which would be 2 boxes of 50. Okay, fourth example. This special valve, and this one isn't showing from Allentown Distribution Center. When I go into the procurement screen, schedule, procurement, here I notice the other branches also don't have any. NUCO comes up for this product. So when you see vendors appear in this procurement window, that's driving from what's called byline maintenance. So, depending what the product is going to determine the vendor choices in here. So if I were going to get this from NUCO, I would just enter my quantity here and close out of the screen, and then the purchasing group would create the purchase order. To take this a step farther, though, let's say I go on Nuco's website or I call them and I learn they don't have this and I actually need to get it somewhere else. For this example that I picked out, I learned that we can get this from HC9 as the vendor. This is when you're going to use the sales pick vendor. So you've determined that you can't get it from distribution center, or maybe you need it faster, and the vendor that comes up isn't going to be able to get you the product in time. So you're going with another vendor. You choose sales pick vendor, enter the quantity, 1, in this example. You can change the ship via at this point or kind of in the next step. So let's say I already know I want this like UPS second day air. We have different choices. Put that in there. Okay, let me go back to my slides. So when you're getting product and choosing sales pick vendor, you have like one more step you have to do. Go back to the slides for a second, and then we're going to go into what's called procurement confirmation. Okay. Oops. So on the status screen, if you don't already have this on your toolbar, procurement confirmation, it is found under Edit, procurement confirmation. To add anything to your toolbar in general, you just right-click next to it, customize toolbar, whatever you want to add, click Add. So procurement confirmation, and in this screen, we see this valve sales pick vendor. This is where I'm going to change it to the vendor I want to get it from. In my example, it's HC9. This is my second opportunity for where I could change the ship via. Basically, I'm communicating to purchasing, I'd like this product to come from HC9, and here's the ship via. And that's pretty much it. Now, I know, Pete, you may be one of them. We do have some folks in commercial sales, government sales, who will do the final step of creating the purchase order themselves. But for 95% of our sales force, this is kind of where you stop, unless you then need to reach out to the buyer with specific instructions. So you choose the vendor and the ship via, and then our purchasing group will create the PO and send it off. Okay, just a couple more minutes. Let me go back to my slide. Oh, before I forget, back in the sales order, you want to change the, if you contacted the vendor and learned that the cost is not what comes up in here, so I don't know, maybe it's $481.50. You want to please go ahead and update the cost on the sales order, because that will flow through for purchasing. So when they create the PO, it'll match what you put on the sales order there. Again, note, if urgent, like a next day air situation, then please job queue or otherwise reach out to purchasing to tell them it's urgent. Okay. Last couple of notes. I want to show you procurement confirmation queue for a moment. Procurement confirmation queue, you go in, you look at it for your branch. Don't put anything for buyer ID. You want to leave that blank. Buyer ID is like Dawn, Kevin, Katie, those are our buyers or purchasing agents. Leave that blank. So just put in your branch, and then you'll see for the branch, here are all the procurements, I'll say, in progress. So these ones coming from ADC, there's nothing else that we have to do at the branch to worry about. The last example I did where we chose HC9, got the cost right, got the Shavia right, we're done there. But see this one, it says sales pick vendor. That means someone in Broomall, this is made up, of course, but someone in Broomall needs to finish going in and putting the vendor on there. So if you do a lot of special orders, as a salesperson, I'd say it would be good for you to go in here each day. Otherwise, when I travel to the branches, I say, let's have at least one or two people at each branch kind of keeping an eye on this. And then the final safety net is that purchasing will look at this, but they might see it a little bit later than you at the branch. So that's, again, procurement confirmation screen. Final couple of notes, and then I'll unmute, and we can have Q&A. So when a product is procured and then the transfer or purchase order is created, that's when it's called a tag. And as I said earlier, the cost on the PO or transfer will flow through and become the cost on the sales order. I don't have an example of this handy, but from the schedule screen, after that PO or transfer is created, then you would see it there. Oh, final note, byline maintenance is where you can see the buyer for your branch for each byline. So if you're having trouble finding the source for a product, need to talk with somebody who might be more familiar with it, byline maintenance will show you who the buyer is. So from a sales order, if you're clicked on a product, you can do maintenance, byline maintenance, or I have it added to my toolbar also. So again, pretending I work in Broomall, for this product line that includes fan blades, Katie is my buyer. Other branches have other buyers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give me just a moment, and then folks can unmute and we can have Q&A. Okay, so I think you guys can unmute now. Catherine, can you speak? I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah,
able
no,
to.
you can unmute.
Oh, okay. It doesn't give me
I
like
do have a question, actually. Hi, everyone on here. Two of whom are sitting in the room next to me, but don't have their videos on. Ryan, Jason. Did you address, maybe you did elsewhere, so forgive me if it's repetitive, but when I've procured something and I had already added in freight, that is what will then, if I put it in the totals line, this makes it drop if I procure an item once I've changed that number?
I've not been able to test that to find that true, but that's
okay,
what
we
I
don't know yet. Okay. I guess I'll just say that if one is changing, we have had issues with the freight dropping in certain places on Eclipse. So it might be worthwhile after you've gone through this procurement process to check if the freight that you added is still there.
So yeah, freight is a tricky animal, right? I think, I'm pretty sure, and there's all these scenarios, but what seems to work very well is if you change your view in a sales order to a view that includes the freight, and then you enter the freight there, that seems to do a very good job of sticking that freight with that product, even if that product is procured, moved to a different generation, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that makes freight, I'll say, more sticky and less likely to disappear is in the total screen of a sales order, kind of how you read this screen is over on the left. This is showing freight and other totals for the specific ship date. One of the things that definitely makes freight disappear is if you have an order and you start moving products onto different shipments within that order. Total freight, on the other hand, is more sticky. So if I enter the freight there, then it's going to, spread that freight out amongst the products, even if the products are then put on different ship dates. We can get into a lengthy discussion on freight. I'd say different scenarios. Overall, I like the idea of putting the freight here.
Matt, to your point on that, why's there so Jocko? If you add it to the item line, it could multiply.
Yeah, that is correct. So if it does multiply. So if I have 2 of these and add $8 of freight, it's going to multiply 2 times 8 to put 16. I already did this total freight thing, so I think I'm screwing it up. Hold on. Yeah. But anyhow, freight is a lengthy conversation with all the things Eclipse can and can't do around freight. As far as procurement, though, getting product from other branches, from distribution center, from vendors, questions, comments, things that might help the group or that you're confused about.
Matt, I've got a comment on that. So if we procure from, let's say, Nuco, and you had mentioned if you procure, then you can go in later and change it because you find out maybe the vendor's not available. We only have a certain amount of time before we can back out of that commitment because purchasing will pull that PO. So we have to be mindful to probably do our research on where we're going to procure first and then procure to be sure that's where we're going to get from the vendor so that purchasing doesn't already process the order.
Oh, what 100%. And if I didn't present that clearly, I apologize. I was just saying, right, when I went into that product, I saw Nuco as a possible source. But what I meant, I probably didn't say it right. So then I contact Nuco or go on their website and oops, they don't have it. So I'm doing that before I commit and enter my quantity. Or, I mean, purchasing will change the vendors if they catch it. But if it's urgent and I need to get this tomorrow or the next day, then I'd advise you doing that legwork. Just gonna leave it open for another minute or two, couple minutes if people have more questions or thoughts. Just gonna make sure I didn't miss saying anything here. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't come with an example of when you after the PO or transfer has been created, then in the schedule screen, it wouldn't just say procured from, it would actually give you the transfer or the purchase order. And then you'd be able to click view tag order. But because in all of my examples, we didn't actually create the transfers or the purchase orders yet. So, but this is where you would see the tag once the transfer purchase order is created. Could also go into the future ledger for the product. Everybody's on mute. Okay, going once. So I'm going to try to get, originally I was ambitious and thinking maybe I'd do like 3 of these a month. But with my travel schedule and other commitments, I think maybe 2 of these a month might be a more realistic commitment. I do have like a running list of ideas for these webinars. But if you have ideas, topics that you think would benefit, you know, salespeople or warehouse folks, branch managers, any kind of group, please give me those ideas and we'll see what we can do with it.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, one more thing. Sorry. There's, I've also noticed in some cases when you go to procure when you pull up the screen that shows you all the vendors that you can procure from, sometimes it doesn't list the branches. And I found that there's a way to pull those up to give you more visibility. For some reason, I don't know why it does that. I don't know if it's equipment transfers. They pull out the branches that are available.
Well, yeah, so what it is, Joe, and I mean, I'm not saying there couldn't be errors because there's a lot of setup behind the scenes. So it's called procurement path. So I think it's at the byline level. There could be some stuff that's down to the product level, but basically Dawn sets up, and I'm going to go with byline for now. She says, all right, for this byline, here's the possible sources that we want to give branches. And I know she changes it based on, like, if we shift central warehousing. So in one of my examples, I said Downingtown is the central warehouse for this. So that's the kind of setup that drives like what you see in that procurement screen. And then the vendor choices are also set up in byline maintenance. But that's interesting. I mean, so if you don't see a branch in there, but you think you could get product from them, I guess see if it'll let you create.
So
No,
if you go
to create it, yeah.
Yeah, if you go to
Inventory inquiry.
inventory inquiry, is it inquiry?
Yeah.
I think it's inventory inquiry.
You'll see it there.
Yeah, you'll see it there. But when you go to your procurement window, you go to file and it'll say all branches, and you click that tab, and it'll actually pull it up for visibility reasons. Yeah, go to file. And then all branches. Now, if there was any branches that have it, it will pull that window up for you.
That's interesting. Because I didn't know that. I mean, when you come in there, I guess there's logic that it's only going to show what it should be doing is only showing you the branches that have available quantity. So like in this one, it was only Colmar, but so it should be showing you, 4 branches have it available. Only those 4 branches would appear. But tell you what, I mean, if you get an example of that, could you email me? I would just have to kind of study it and maybe get Dawn to see it. Yeah. But that's what it should be doing, is just showing the branches that have it available. So
Yeah, that'd be really, thank you, Tyler. Like if that's happening, that's a really good catch, because otherwise someone wouldn't know if another branch had it. You'd have to go and click and it wouldn't default to show.
Yeah, again, there's that procurement path setup.
Yeah.
So it could be. Yeah, I'd love it. We would just have to dig into it. It could be, oops, we forgot to add that branch for that byline. It's certainly possible.